Hi everyone, it's Joe Waxman. I'm here with Sheri-Lynn DeMaris, and Sheri has agreed to be interviewed by me, and she's been macrobiotic a long time, been involved in macrobiotics and teaching and lots of good stuff. I've known Sheri for a long time. So Sheri, as always, I want to get to know you a little bit and to hear about your macrobiotic story. Like, when did you start, and how did that happen?
I was exactly 26 years old, and I just got out of graduate school. I went to the College of William and Mary to study guidance counseling and joined a health food co-op down there, but I just knew I didn't want to eat animal food anymore. In fact, I remember the last day I had a Burger King burger. It was on my 26th birthday. So,
What year was that?
Wait, what year? 1981. So I just felt repulsed by it. I just felt repulsed by chicken and meat. And I just knew that my mother was always into health foods and interested. She'd make us carrot juice with spinach ice cubes in it. So I was at the College of William and Mary. I joined a health food co-op and I turned vegan. But I was still eating, lots of sugar and junk and stuff. And I moved back home because I couldn't find a job in guidance counseling. So I worked at a local health food store, and they put up a flyer. It was Terry Ingram, and he had a center in Morristown, New Jersey. And it was a Thanksgiving dinner. So my mom and I agreed to go. It was a Thanksgiving macrobiotic dinner. And we'd never heard the word macrobiotic before, and the people were really super nice. And I remember loving the pumpkin pie and thinking, what a nice spread for Thanksgiving. It was like easier to digest, and it was seitan and fresh vegetables. And I thought, this food is really wonderful food. So I signed up to take a cooking class, a series of cooking classes with Terry and Susan Ingram while I was working at the health food store. And then through the class, I heard about, it was 1981. So then I heard about the center in Philadelphia that your dad was helping to run. And at the time, Dr. Sadalero was, in the midst of everything. So it was becoming more and more popular. And I started taking classes there, just going for their Friday night lectures. I remember all my friends would go out to bars and drink, and I'd go downtown to hear another lecture. And so I started volunteering there, helping with cooking classes. And then I met Marilyns Waxman, who was married to Howard Waxman, who is Denny Waxman's brother, and she invited me to move into their study house. So I moved and lived there for 4 years, and then really got to understand the diet and how to make lunches and breakfasts and how to raise kids on it.
You broke up a little bit there.
Oh, okay. So when I moved into
you moved into
the study house, I really learned how to make breakfasts and lunches and cook for kids. And I met you and you guys because we lived right down the street. So it was Denny and his house was down the street, and then Geraldine Walker and Stan Walker were around the
Argyle Road.
Yes.
Road. I remember that well. It was a nice tight macro community we had there. Yeah.
So I just loved the whole, family idea. I just felt like really part of the family. We would host dinners every night. We'd help with cooking. We'd help with cleanup. We'd even create little Scrabble games and Trivial Pursuit things out of macrobiotic funds. And, Howard would come home from a scene and bring all this stuff, new products we'd get to try. And there's always an inflow of people into the house, like Bill, Tara came by to visit, Ed Esco. People would come to Philadelphia and visit. They'd come have dinner at the house. So it was almost like a party every night. It was fun.
And Marilyns' house was huge. That house was it could accommodate everyone.
Yes.
Massive.
And I had this beautiful bedroom on the top floor. It was, you know, we all had tatami mats on the floor and futons. And Marilyn and I actually started a futon company. We called it Sweet Dreams. And we make these giant futons. And I remember trying to deliver them in New York City, like at these tiny little steps in these apartments. I mean, it was crazy. So I learned a lot just by living there. And then I took tons of classes from your dad. I just felt like your dad was such a great teacher, still is. Every time I sit in one of his lectures, I get blown away. I'm just so in awe of all the information he has. And, you know, it was just nice to be surrounded by all those people and all that support. I really felt fortunate because I know that many of my students now don't have that support. They didn't even get to meet Misha Okubo, who, you know, brought Macrobiotics to the United States. So I was very, very fortunate. And then following the 4 years I was there, every summer, because I was a guidance counselor, I would go up to the Kushi Institute, help run the camp, volunteer in the office or the kitchen, and did all the levels. And at the time, Misha was teaching the levels, like all the level 4s. He'd put on an apron and cook for us and show us things. So, and I got to scribe for him a lot. Like when he came to Philadelphia one time for a whole week, and he did like every 15 minutes, like 10 people up on the stage, and he'd just go across the people. And I was the only scribe. I remember going home and my arm was like in a sling for the rest of the week. But
you're probably like, slow down.
yes. So, and then after that, I spent a lot of time up at the Institute. Albert Nilsson approached me about teaching in Amsterdam at their Kushi Institute. So I did that for about 6 years and got to know the Nielsen's. I still go over and visit every summer, which I love. I just love that family so much. And Jean van de Heuvel I became friends with. So through them, I actually, you know, learned more European style as well as American style macrobiotics. And, you know, really got to network with so many people.
So, okay. So then when did you become, what happened after that?
So after I, you know, teaching in Amsterdam, Albert unfortunately passed away several years ago, and they stopped the summer conference.
You were teaching in Amsterdam, like for like how many years?
6 summers, I think I went there.
In this, okay, yeah.
Yeah, just in the summer, because I was still working full time as a counselor at school. So at school, you know, I started seeing more and more of my kids, you know, coming in with autism, all sorts of severe mental problems, emotional problems. And I really felt like if I could help educate the parents, it might help the whole situation. So I started Monday afternoons. We rented out the cooking room, and I had 25 kids, and I put 5 in a kitchen, and I demo like one item, and I'd have them copy what I made. Like we made homemade pizza and lasagnas and soups, and I remember baking big spaghetti squashes, you know, anything to get their attention. And then we created a garden. So my principal gave me all this money, and I created this beautiful vegetable garden on the school grounds. So kids would pick the food and then bring it into the kitchen. And I got Trader Joe's to cover the cost of everything. So they came in and watched us. And we started making videos with the kids and showing them on the school TV channel. And then I got rid of all the candy machines. I was like the most hated counselor in the school because they didn't have Skittles or anything anymore.
Oh, good for you.
So then I started working with Neil Barnard a little bit. I went out there and helped him write curriculum for the Cancer Project. And then he awarded me the Golden Carrot Award for the Garden to Plate program. And I got a bunch of grant money, one from McDonald's actually.
Wow.
Yes.
That's ironic.
Yes. So we did that for about 10 years. It was called Healthy Kids in the Kitchen. We had chef hats and matching aprons, and the parents and I started a cookbook with all the recipes, their favorite recipes. And then I took that cookbook to a book author, Cedar Tree Books, and they published it. But they didn't want to put the kid pictures in because of legal reasons. So we cut and pasted, random kid pictures in there. And I made the book so it was all, like I explained every ingredient in macrobiotics and had a photo of the ingredient. And then I did every cooking style, and I did favorite kids' foods like burgers and pancakes and waffles and things like that. And now what I do is I use it for my cooking classes because it's a good guide to get people started, to know how to travel with their food, why we eat this way. And it's very elementary, but it has the photos and I made a video to match the book, so it's really easy. So then I started teaching like in Whole Foods stores and doing, like demos with the book signings and stuff like that.
That's cool. I can certainly list that book on my website along with this interview.
Oh.
Yeah. But sweet. So I was curious, how do you think the food and the lifestyle has changed you over the years? Like how do you feel about the sort of essence of macrobiotics, the effects it has had on your life? What can you say about that?
When I ate M&Ms, I was, when I remember writing my thesis, my master's thesis, like stocking up on M&Ms, peppered charm cookies, all these, like little rewards. And I would get so depressed on Sundays. I'd sit on the couch. I think my life is over. I have no purpose. I don't know where I'm going. And I just carried this like heavy, dark cloud over my head. And through the years, that's just like dissipated. One time your dad mentioned in a lecture, the whole purpose of life is to have joy. And I'm like, joy? I was, feeling so dark all the time. And it was due to my horrible diet. And I remember that I was on the cruise one year because I helped work on the cruise. I get all the food donations and raffle prizes and stuff. And this girl came running up to me and she said, "Are you Sheri DeMaris? Because I met you like 20 years ago and you look entirely different." She said, "Macrobiotics has done you so well." But I was a real tomboy. I played field hockey. I downhill skied. I was really masculine almost and wore like, these big bulky clothes. And it just softened me up and it opened me up spiritually, more sensitive, much more. I couldn't, when I was up at the Kushi Institute learning from Misha, he had me do a lot of presentations and I would freeze. I wouldn't be able to speak out of my throat. And as a child, I had to go to a speech therapist because I wouldn't speak. And the TV show that I do now, is helping me to do that, to really express. But I had like almost blockages through, how to express who I was and what I was about.
Was it, would you say anxiety related or somehow different than anxiety? Because I had anxiety and I felt some similarity there. Major social anxiety, and I couldn't speak in front of people. I've overcome that, but yeah.
It was definitely anxiety. It was a pressure. I really felt pressured. I remember my first camp. I went to Camp Akiba the first time. That's where I met Misha. All the lectures. Yeah. And Suzuko Yamamoto was there. That was the first time I met her, and she gave me a shiatsu. And this is really amazing. After she worked with me, I felt this big, bright light come to my forehead, like an angel almost saying, you're going to be okay. And she had told me that my mother's side of the family was very grain eating, like back through generations. But my father's side of the family was very heavy meat eating. And that I had a lot of old excess, from that. And what she did was she said that I think it was more blockages, like just old style, heavy foods. So working through that.
That's really great to hear.
Mm-hmm.
So that all sounds wonderful. Tell me about things that you've been up to more recently, because I'm always hearing things about you. Like you're so busy, you're so active in the macrobiotic community. You got so many different projects going on, and I don't even know all the stuff that you've done. So tell me more about what's going on.
Well, I have to just say that I mentioned this on Misha's 80th birthday, whatever, that the most meaningful thing to me was when he would work with children and he would give children hope, like autistic kids, especially hope that if they change their diet, they can change their condition. And that just struck a chord in my heart. So that's what's been motivating me so much. So when I retired 2 years ago from my school counseling job, but I took care of my dad first for 4 years, and your dad had helped me a lot with that. He had prostate cancer, and he decided not to do any treatments and to just change his diet. So I actually almost moved in and cooked for him, around the clock. And then my mom for like 3 years with a heart condition. And so I couldn't really do much of anything but care for them. And once they passed, I bought a little house. I moved from my condo, and it has a huge garden. I had Mike Balave, who's this fantastic gardener. He's macrobiotic, built these wooden raised beds for me. And we planted umeboshi trees. We did persimmon tree, cherry bushes, blueberries, and then he brought this wonderful soil. So these vegetables are like huge and they sparkle and they're so full of energy. So I've been doing that. And then when I was a guidance counselor, I went to a TV producer and I said I wanted to make, just a video to shop around different places about what I do. And he said, well, Sheri, no one's going to understand macrobiotics unless you create like a documentary or something. So I created a documentary about prostate cancer. And
that's amazing, Sheri. I just want to stop you. I have not seen that. So where can I find that? Just because.
Well, it's called Macro and Montauk if you go on YouTube.
Macro and Montauk.
Yeah. So
I feel like everyone should know that, at least in the macrobiotic community. So Macro and Montauk on YouTube. All right.
And so we created it with a guy, Ken Walls, in Montauk. And Dirk Benedict was a friend of mine, so he was going to MC it or talk about it. And then we ran out of funding, so we didn't have any funding. So we just sort of stopped that. But then I made this pilot that I shopped. It's now a video that goes with my book, and we shopped it to all the different stations. And a lot of the stations said it's too soon. Like, we're just working with veganism right now. This is like 15 years ago. So then I didn't know how to communicate to I wanted to get it out there, the word out there. So I created a talk show in Radnor Station that was called Tea with Sheri, and I'd have a cup of tea and I invite guests on the show. It was all because my girlfriend built this TV set for me. I wrote an article for it in Macro Today magazine that just came out. She, as a birthday surprise, she built this TV set for me, and I was scared of cameras. I couldn't talk. I didn't know what to do. So we had my mother on camera one and this student on camera two, but I started bringing in guests, and I brought Jack Canfield in. He talked about chicken soup for the soul. We made a miso soup. I brought Jamie Lynn, who wrote all these books on feng shui. And then I brought your dad and Misha Okubo and Warren Kramer and all these people. And then we started filming on site. So we ran that show for about 8 years while I was a guidance counselor. Then when my parents got sick, I sort of shut everything down. I shut the website down. I shut the show down. And my mom died in January 2019. So I said, well, maybe I should start the show up again. So I went back to Radnor Studio. They wanted a cooking show, but they weren't really equipped for it. So we made 2 just videos. And then I found another station in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. So that's where I recreated Macro Magic. So Macro Magic is a talk show. It's a half-hour talk show, and I bring on different guests. I just had Colin Campbell on this week.
I saw that, yeah.
Yeah, and there's 3 studios. There's a kitchen studio, a living room studio, and a newsroom. So I can film at any of those rooms. And the guest comes on for half an hour. We usually show pictures, talk about their business, talk about what they do. And the whole purpose of the show is to show all the different billions and billions ways to get healed. So I didn't want to just keep it like strict macro, but I want to show people that there's hope with, you know, not using EMFs in your house, and facial acupuncture, and, you know, filtering your water, anything related to health. And then I'm weaving macrobiotics into it. So from a macrobiotic standpoint, how does this apply? You know, the people that view my show. And then, you know, like Colin Campbell was talking about, he actually worked with Misha Okubo in the past. So there's that, you know, alignment there. And we can talk, you know, Tom Monty talked about the microbiome and the importance of pickles. So I pick out highlights of each show, how it pertains to macrobiotics. And then I have guests, chefs. Susan came on. We had a whole bunch of people from the Philly area, Peg Bato, who does cosmic catering. And they would show a dish and then how they made the dish and explain, you know, why they use the ingredients they use. So I do that. And then I host every Thursday, I host Zoom meetings for a group of macrobiotic people that want to hear like more specific information.
Oh, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you feel, how do you feel about macrobiotics as it relates to the modern world? I mean, you know, things are pretty crazy these days, I'd say, and I think a lot of people would agree that everything that's going on. How do you feel that macrobiotics fits into this whole modern day environment?
I think now is the time to switch. I think we're at a breaking point now. Either we clean up our act and clean up the environment, or we're going down fast. So trying to make it as simple as possible for people. You know, you don't have to be an expert chef. Like your videos have been great for people, I think. You know, go in the kitchen and make a nice pasta. You don't have to, you know, be as rigid as we were in the past about counting out the grains and salts and how much soy you food. I think just, you know, pulling up a turnip out of your garden. Yeah, I think just pulling up a turnip out of your garden and cooking it, you know, has all that great energy. I think we need to honor the environment, and we need to honor ourselves and really start taking care of ourselves nutritionally, because it is a nutritional crisis we're going through.
Yeah. I mean, it's really interesting how, you know, we have this pandemic supposedly, but nobody's talking about health. You know, everyone's concerned with masks, but the real underlying issue is health. I think you're exactly right about that now's the time for people. And strangely, like, I used to feel like macrobiotics was so fringe, you know, that people just weren't ready to hear about it.
Right.
Nowadays, I think people are ready to hear about it. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. When I spoke on the cruise this year, I did a presentation on women's health. I had men in there too. It was packed. And they're all practicing like veganism, but they don't understand the healing effects of all the information we know. You know, the healing foods and how to prepare them. And I was shocked, because usually that border has been like split. You know, they go their way, we go our way. And I saw for the first time it coming together. And I think people are just tired of feeling horrible. They're tired of feeling sick, and they're intuitively, some of them are knowing that they're on the wrong track as far as their, nutrition. And it was interesting because Colin Campbell on my show came up with this information that he had studied 30 years ago, the hepatitis virus. And he found that just switching on to a plant-based diet within a couple weeks would improve, the person's condition with the virus, and then switching off just a couple weeks would make it worse. And he said, since it works with hepatitis virus, why wouldn't it work with COVID? So, to give these people hope and just say, switch now. Your body can heal quicker than, it took you to destroy it.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, health is such an issue. Everyone wants like healthcare, and they're concerned about health, and the real fundamental health comes from food, And if we and I love, what these prominent doctors are doing, like T. Colin Campbell and Michael Greger and Esselstyn McDougall. All these guys are having a very positive influence. And if we just incorporate a whole foods plant-based diet together with some macrobiotic basic understanding of balance, and
yes,
it's a very powerful combination right there. And there is a bridge, like you said, between these two different worlds and all that. So that all sounds wonderful. Sure.
Yeah, I think people don't know much about macrobiotics. That's why I started the show, to introduce the name and the concept. And I never, Misha said, don't ever dissolve that name. Rio Shintani and a couple others would just call it their diet or whatever. And you need to keep integrity and keep the name, and because it has meaning and purpose. And it's a lifestyle, and it's very simple, basic, common sense, but we've sort of drifted so far away from that it seems foreign.
And the early days was, like you said, it was just so overly focused, and it got in many ways dogmatic and rigid, and we need to move away from that, but we can't move so far away that we just lose the whole, throw away the baby with the bathwater. There's so much value in there, and it's just the right perspective, holding it right.
Right.
So, Sheri, what else have you got for me? What else can you tell me?
I just want to say how, really thankful I am for you and your dad, and all the work all of us have done, because I really feel we're here on a mission. I feel like we're here for a purpose, and it's really, we're friends helping friends. And, sometimes along the road, you feel like maybe people get competitive, or, they feel like they're doing it their way and it's not the same as the other person's way. But like you said, at this time and stage in our development, we really need to, as a group, bond and really, support one another, because it's so important, so important.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's one of the reasons I'm doing these things. I can be as hard-headed as anyone, and I'm opinionated, and I'm right, you're wrong. But I think I want to step above that. I want to be a uniter, a unifier of the greater macrobiotic community and beyond. For people who are just interested in health and getting better and having a better way of life and connecting to nature and being conscious of the food we eat. So I want to bring people together. So I think that sounds right to me.
And nature supports you 100% if you really let it. It's amazing that you take years to create cancer, and then a couple months your body goes into healing mode when you switch over to, really supporting it. A Zoom lecture last night on the rice fields in South River, Miso, and it was amazing how they communicate to the rice seeds, and they actually send the messages through the rice seed about the person eating. They put the seeds in their mouth, and then they put them in the ground, and that the rice actually communicates with all the other rice and with the universe, and it brings like sunlight and healing into your body when you eat it. I mean, there's a whole different spiritual aspect to just working with nature and trusting nature and eating healthy food that we're not even aware of yet.
Well, I think that's it. I mean, if I was going to summarize things right now for everyone, it would just be sort of, let's keep our connection to nature alive as much as possible through our food, through our lifestyle, through everything we do, because that's the dividing line. If we separate from nature, we separate from health, really, and we lose our connection to the universe, the harmony of the universe. We need that connection to nature, and it seems like a lot of people are moving further and further away from that. So,
yeah, Bill Tara had an interesting point. He said on one of our lectures that when you become unfamiliar with something, you don't care about it anymore. When you're not outside with the trees and the grass, and you're not eating from your garden, and you're in your car and you're always on concrete, you're always in buildings, you don't have that connection to nature anymore. You don't care if it's plowed under and disregarded and destroyed. So just getting back to really having gratitude for nature and being out in nature and eating from your garden and cooking good wholesome grains and beans and vegetables, you connect again, and it's natural that you want to protect it.
Exactly. It establishes a connection to life. And there's a sort of inherent reverence towards life, which we need, because otherwise we're just saying like, oh, there's too many people on the planet, let's kill, a good portion of them because we just need, but that's,
the animals.
There's no humanity. Or the animals, the factory farms, we treat animals like property, like they're not even alive. It's terrible.
Mm-hmm.
So that connection to nature is very important, very important.
Mm-hmm.
So Sheri, what is your big vision for the coming days, for the future, for yourself and Macrobiotics and the world at large? What's your big vision?
Yeah, I think I just carry with me purpose in helping as many people as I can before I pass. Just reaching out and getting the ones who are sort of on that tipping point, wanting to know the information, because some people are, always going to stay resistant to it. So just opening up people spiritually into, understanding some of this stuff so that they can have happier, healthier lives. I love creative things. My cookbook's all about magic. So I'm always intrigued with metaphysical things and theories. And so I like to continue with those studies and just be, a real inspiration to people.
That sounds really nice. Really great to hear.
Yeah, I feel like I was so blessed with what I was given that I have to really give back a lot, because, I was just in the right spot at the right time, the right teachers, and I got so much from every one of them that, I need to share that.
We're on the same page there, because I want to give too. That's my main mission right now. It's just giving back. I've been blessed. I have so much to offer because of the things I've been given. So I want to give back. Sheri, any final words for everyone?
Yeah, I think that if we can all remember, that everyone is our brother and sister. I think Tom Monty summed it up really well in his Zoom lecture to us, that we're all part of this. We're all one. And, we have to remember, even if it's really difficult, if they have different political views or different, they don't see the value of what we're doing, we have to still bless them and surround them in light and love, and realize that, we all are all a part of this. So I think that's important.
So important, because it seems like so many people are divided these days and trying to keep the vision alive, and that's really disheartening. We need to come together. We're one humanity.
Yes.
We need to take care of each other and be good to each other and the animals and the planet.
You know, I reviewed Misha Okubo's book for Macro Today magazine, his the new edition of his memoirs. And I noticed a theme throughout every story. Everyone wrote how patient he was, how loving he was, even up until, you know, the most minute, stupid question that would cross his path, or someone, you know, who was really sick and needy. Always giving, always open to serve. And I think it was such a good role model for all of us that we need to develop that sort of patience.
Sounds great. I couldn't agree more.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Sheri, I'm out of questions, and it seems like we've covered the right amount. Let's put it that way. And so I'm just going to wrap it up here.
I just want to also say, so my cookbook is Macro Magic for Kids and Parents, and all the information or everything that I do is on my website, Kiss Your Plate. So it's a big, big red lips. It's called kissyourplate.com.
Kissyourplate.com.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. And I will put on my website, the macrobiotic.com, your books, and hopefully you can contribute other things if you like. You're welcome to. Yeah. So
Thanks.
Thank you so much, Sheri. It's been great talking to you.
It was great to see you. Keep up your good work.
Fun. Thank you. I will. I love it.
We love the recipes.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Bye-bye.